Doing the chapter writing in the city life, in which we are talking about the settlements. Okay, if we talk of the settlement developed first in the southern Mesopotamia around 5000 BC. So you can see the city developed from these settlements. You can some of the city which developed around the temple, some which were known as town tradings and town cities and the town trading, and another one is the imperial under the rulers. Okay, when we talk about the temple town, you know the earliest known temple was small shrine which was made up of unbaked bricks which are not dried in sun or in fire. You can see in due course of time temple became larger at a massive structures like ziggurats, okay, that may be like pyramid shapes, and they had several rooms around this open courtyard. So when we talk about what was it was just a, we call the temple the house of the god, and there was one distinct feature that separate it from the ordinary houses was the temple had the outer wall going in and out at a regular interval. So this feature was absent in ordinary houses. Center of economic activities. So temple was what? It was the center of economic activities. You can see people brought grain, fish and curd to the god. The god was considered to be the theoretical owner of the agricultural field. You can see here the fisheries, the herds of the local community. And in due course of time, when the temple which are holding the position now became the processing of food was also done in the temple, as you can see pressing, oil pressing, grain, grinding, spinning or other activities. Then temple became the organizers, okay, of the production at a level above the household. It became, here you can see employers of merchants and keepers of written record, distribution and allotment of various item. So when we talk about the production, okay, it become the organizer of production, the processing is going on, and the distribution and allotments of good was done by the temple. So it become the center of economic activities. So here you can see that when we talk about the agriculture that faced natural hazards. What about the hazards? You can see floods or drought often force people to shift from one place to another. So there was a dispute between different communities for land and river. So whoever the chief, okay, who had been successful in war, it could be oblige their followers by distributing their loots. Be thankful by following distributing their loots, whatever he has earned from the loot, from the rate he distributed among the peoples. And when we talk about this leadership, now it came to increase the well-being of the community. They started working for the community. Various chiefs started to offer precious booty to the god, and it helped in beautifying that beauty that help in beautifying the temple. So here you can see settlement of village close to the leader ensured a quick build of army in times of need. So on the other hand, people would be safe, okay, living in close proximity to one another. So you can see how a leader emerged here. The chief of the community emerged as a ruling class. So we can take the example of Uruk. Okay, it was the when we talk about it's an example of the early temple town. So here you can see it was the earliest temple town, and then around 3000 BCE, Uruk grew to enormous extent of 250 hectares area. So during the extension of town, you can see dozen of small villages were deserted during this period. It remained existent. When we talk about the existence of this Uruk, the temple town remains to 4200 BC to 4000 Common Era. And whoever this, if we talk about the town city, the town temple town, the war captives were the war prisoners, and the local people were put to work for temple. Because now you can see if we are talking about the temple town, so this is the major center of what all the economic activity. And and this war captives and the local people, they work as a labor class. So here in lieu of their work, they were getting rations. Okay, so even when we talk about this temple, there was a technical advancement during this period. You can see around 3000 BCE bronze tool came into use. First of all, bronze tools, they learned to construct the brick columns. Okay, when we talk about the because of the lack of suitable woods there, poor quality of woods that cannot bear the weight of the roof of a large halls, so this motivate the architect to learn the column bricks. Then we talk about the sculptures. Here you can see there was superb achievement in sculptures which were made of imported stone. For example, marble head of a goddess, the mask of Lady Varka represent Inanna. Then comes the potter wheel. With the invention of this technology, you can see now it was easy for them to make potter. At a mass production, they can produce pots in less time. And then we talk about the life in the city. So we saw about the structure of the family. It was patriarchal. It means the father is the head of the family. And when we talk about the family, it was a nuclear family comprised of our parents and their children. So there is also little information about their marriage, or what was the procedure for marriage as common these days. So you can see that the declaration was made about the willingness of marriage that we have discussed in the previous video also. Bride's parents gave their consent. During wedding, gifts were exchanged by both the side, and when the mother-in-law came to fetch her, the bride was given her share of the inheritance, okay, as in the form of dowry. And when we talk about the father property, the father's house, her fields were inherited by his son. Okay, and when we talk about the town planning here, okay, as we are talking about the city life, okay, in which we saw the structure of the society, then now we see about the town planning. So when we talk about the town planning, you can see the house had narrow winding streets. Okay, it means there was lots of twist and turn instead of it's not straight. Okay, house, as we saw in the Mesopotamia, there was a grid pattern. Then you can see house plots were irregular in shapes. It showed lacks of town planning. So there was no street drain. Okay, when we talk about the drainage system, and if we talk about the drainage system, there was clay pipe. Okay, clay made up of mud were in the inner courtyard of a house. Rain waters that go through the drain pipe into the sumps or the pit in the inner courtyard. This was probably done to prevent the unmetalled that street, okay, for becoming excessively muddy after a rainfall. So here you can see here that people, they swept all their household refuses or the garbage into the streets. So what was the result? The street level rose, and needing a raise in that level, they rose the, if you talk about the doorstep of the house, okay, so that the garbage and this mud should not enter into their home or house. Then we find the town cemetery there, in which graves of royalty and commoners, okay, common peoples were buried. And if we talk the few individual house buried under the floor of ordinary houses. So this was the life, okay, in their cities, the how the life survive or exist there. Now we talk about the trading town. Okay, as we saw the temple town, and now we talk about the trading town Mari, that is the trading town. It flourished. When we talk about it flourished around 2000 BC. Okay, Mari is situated much further upstreams of the Euphrates. Some communities in the kingdom of Mari were what? They were agriculturalists and pastoralists, as it lie in the zone of what? Pastoral land. So, okay, that you can see in the previous video also that it lie in the zone of pastoral land. So most of its territory, okay, it was used for pasturing sheep and goats. So you can see here exchange of what? Material, okay, that was the norms between the herders and the farmers. And then but you can find here there was a conflict between herders and farmers. That conflict here is what? When they crossed, when the pastoralists crossed with their flocks, okay, into the agricultural zone area, they destroyed the sown crops of the farmers. Sometimes they looted or raided the villages of the peasant and seized the agricultural goods. And then you can find that the peasant, they denied to access water to the herder. So there was a conflict between the peasant, the farmers, and the herders. So here you can see that some of the communities, okay, if we talk about they are living from in the western desert, they came to Mari. Okay, that was the agriculture heartland or agriculture land, and you can find here different communities who are living here as Akkadian, Amorites, Assyrian, and Armenian. Okay, so they worked as a harvest labor or this hired soldiers. So here you can find some of them who gained power to establish their own rule, and then you can see here, if we talk about the king of Mari, he was what? He was Amorite. Okay, and when we talk about the dress, it wear the dress different from that of original inhabitant. So that was the special characteristics that it differ it with other communities. Then you can see there was intermixture of different culture. Okay, and which this catalyzed the vitality of the civilizations. So you can see that the king of Mari used to be vigilant for whom? For vigilant and suspicious for the herders, okay, of various tribes. So when we talk about the Mari is a good example of an urban center prospering in trades. Okay, it is located between the south and mineral-rich uplands of Turkey, Syria, and Lebanon, and it's a prime position for trade. So when we talk about the boat carrying various items of trade would stop at Mari, and then you can see the official would go aboard and cities, and then you can see he inspect the cargoes and levy a charge of one tenth the value of the good. So he put a tax of 1/10 before allowing the boat to continue downstream. If it is coming from upstream, so you can see at the mid a stop at Mari where they put taxes on them, and then they allowed them to go to the south, okay, or the downstreams. So Mari were exceptionally prosperous because of this trade. So now we talk about the excavating Mesopotamia towns. So today when we say the excavation have much higher standards of accuracy and more rigorous, and this is are inscribed or it has been recording. Okay, the recording level is also very high as compared to the excavation that took place earlier. So they dig huge area the way the Ur was excavated. Moreover, few archaeologists have the fund to employ large teams for excavation. Thus, the mode of obtaining data now has changed. Okay, so we can take an example of Abu Salabik. Okay, that is a small town about 10-hectare areas. It is surrounded, and then if we talk around 2500 BC with a population of less than 10,000 peoples. So they first what they do, if we talk about here you can see the technique or method of excavation of a house. You can see trace the outline of a wall. So they first trace the outline of the wall by scraping the surface, and here you can see they involve scraping off a few millimeters of the mound with the sharp and the wide end of a shovel or any other tools. While the soil that is underneath was still slightly moist, so the archaeologist also sieved tons of earth to recover plant and animal. तो उसको छानते हैं मिट्टी को किसके लिए? To recover plants and animal remains. So you can see in process identified many species of plant and animals were found. So large quantity of charred fish that had been found, the burnt fish, and okay, dung cake had been burned as fuel, and thus kitchens were identified. When we talk about the living rooms were those, okay, with fewer traces were found of living room. When if we say the teeth of a very young pigs on the on the streets were found, archaeologists concluded that pig must roam freely here as in other Mesopotamia town. So in fact one house buried they contain some pig bones. Maybe the dead person must have given some perks for his nourishment in the afterlife. So these archaeologists they have made microscopic studies of room floor to which room in a house were roofed, okay, or were made up of with poplar logs, palm leaves or straws, and which were open to some of them were open to sky. So here we saw the technique and the method of excavation and whatever items or goods were found during excavation, the importance of these items and goods. So now we talk about cities in Mesopotamia cultures. So, if we talk about Mesopotamia, they valued city life. After cities were destroyed in war, they recalled them in a poetry or a poem. Such as example can be found at the end of the Gilgamesh era, and it was written on 12 tablets. So, if we talk about Gilgamesh is said to have ruled the city of Uruk. Okay, he was the ruler sometime after Marcus. So, he was a great hero, but he shocked when his friend died. After that, he set out to find the secret of immortality. You can see the ability to live forever. So he searched for that. He crossed the river, crossed the water that surrounded the world, or he crossed the ocean, and he moved on in search of immortality. So this after this heroic attempt, okay, he failed. So, and returned to Urukpak. There he consoled himself by walking along the city wall back and forth. While doing so, he take consolations by admiring the people who help in building a great city. So he does not talk about his son or family who lived after him and rule over the world. So you can see the cities in Mesopotamia culture in the work or the epic of Gilgamesh and in other poetries or in other uh, narratives. So the new topic here is the legacy of writing. So legacy is as something that is transmitted by or it is received from an ancestor or the predecessors. Okay. So they left the legacy of writing for their successor. So here when we talk about a story, a epic or a poem can be transmitted orally from one generation to another. But when we talk the science, it requires written text that generation of scholars can read. So the greatest legacy of this Mesopotamian to the world is its time calculation and mathematics. So during 1800 we can find the tablets were found. The tablets were of inscribed with the tables of square roots, square tables of this compound interest, and then the tablets of you can find multiplication and divisions. So divisions, if we say about of the year into 12 months, okay, month into 4 weeks, and the day into 24 hours, and 1 hours into 60 minutes has come to use from Mesopotamia. Very important. This time division was adopted by the successor of Alexander's. From there, it was transmitted to Roman world and the world of Islam, and to the medieval Europe. So all this could be possible because of the tradition of writing. So in early library, you can see as we talk about the tradition of writing, and now there's a tradition of collecting this writing. Okay, collection of the writing. So here, who did this collection in the early time period? So you can see in the Iron Age, the Assyrian of the north, okay, you can see they created an empire at its peaks between 720 to 610 BC. So it was extended over as far as west of Egypt. The state economics was a predatory one, which means plundering or extracting labors and tribute forcefully in the grains of food, animal metals, and craft item from their population or the subjects. So the great Assyrian king who had immigrant, okay, who have come from outside and they have settled down there, they admit that the southern region Babylonia as the center of high culture. So the last ruler here is the, you can see Asur Banipal that ruled over 668 to 627 BC. Okay, he established library in his capital Nineveh. Okay, so here you can see that he made great efforts to gather tablets on history, epic, Oman literature, astrology, hymn, and poems. So you can see that he sent his scribes to the south, okay, to find the old tablets. So because the if we talk the south, the scribe in south were trained to read and write in schools where they all had to made or to they had to copy the tablets by the dozen. There was uh, dozens of towns. Okay, you can see that in Babylonia where there was a huge collections of tablets. So you can see the Sumerian language were not that was not spoken now. If we talk the Sumerian language, but it continued to be taught in school through vocabulary text. Okay, sign list, bilingual. You can see two languages here, Sumerian, Akkadian. Okay, so these tablets. So you can see 650 the cuneiform tablets in the, so even in 650 BCE you can see the cuneiform tablet was could be read and understood. And you can see this ruler Assurbanipal's man knew where to look for early tablets or their copies. So they moved to the south, okay, in the city of Babylonia. So they made copy of epic Gilgamesh. Okay, the writing. If you say the copier, they stating that his name. So while copying the this Gilgamesh, okay, at the end they state their own name or they give reference of the ruler Assurbanipal. So more important, you can find here that there was if you talk of the catalog or they make a they list of, okay, they make a list according to the subject. So the book was labeled as if it is labeled N for exorcism, written by X. Okay, so you can see that Assurbanipal, if we talk about the library, had a total sum of 1,000 texts amounting this means amounting to about 30,000 tablets. Okay, and then they were categorized according to their subject and were labeled. So you can see that in and an early archaeologist here. So early archaeologist, the ruler who find the archaeologist goods or the remains, and on that behalf he predict, okay, predict or interpreted it. So here you can see when we talk about Nabopolassar, okay, released Babylonia from the domination of Assyrian in the year 625 BC. So his successor increased their territories and they organized building project in Babylonia. Then comes in 539 BC, there was Babylonia was ruled by Achaemenids, okay, of Iran, and they ruled until 331 BC when Alexander conquered Babylonia. So here you can see Babylonia was the leading city of the world, more than 250 hectares with a triple wall, great palace and temples, and ziggurat or the stair towers, okay, or the step towers. So the trader had trading with distant land, its mathematics, and when we talk the astronomers were made new discoveries. So the here you can see Nabonidus was the last ruler of Babylonia. He write that the god of Ur, okay, it came to him in a dream and ordered him to appoint a priestess, okay, woman priest to take charge of the cult or the religious group that ancient town in the deep south. So he writes, okay, because for a very long time the office of high priestess had been forgotten. I thought myself day after day about her characteristic features. Then he say he found the stele of the early king, whom we today date to about 1150 BC, and saw on that stele was carved image of priestess. So here we saw that he found a column, okay, or a stone slabs, one in which there was it was in, uh, depict with the inscriptions, okay, and the inscription it was what inscription of a carved of a image, okay, of the priestess. So he observed, okay, the clothing and jewelry of that carved image of a priestess that was found. So he dressed his daughter, okay, he dressed his daughter for consecration as priestess. So he dedicated his daughter to the service of God and made her priestess. So you can see that on the other occasions, this Nabonidus, okay, man brought to him a broken statue inscribed with the name of Sargon, king of Akkad, who ruled around 23 100 BC. So they had heard about the great king. He called the skilled craftsman and replaced or repaired the head of that broken statue. So here we have covered all the topic of your chapter.